My name's Mat Bedogni. I'm from Auckland, New Zealand, and currently the only Delorean Time Machine owner in the country.
Hi, my name is Video Bob Moseley.
I am Oliver Holler, and this is my lovely bride, Terry Holler, and we're Delorean Time Machine owners.
My name is Lenny Hochteil. Right now I am sitting in my Delorean Time Machine replica.
What's going on, bros? This is Scott Bob Dorr, otherwise known as Scott Dorlack.
Hello, my name is Matt Hissem, and I own this DeLorean Time Machine.
Hey, all you cool cats and kittens. My name is Peter Varrica, and I'm a DeLorean Time Machine owner.
Hey, I'm Elliot Hansen, and I own a DeLorean Time Machine in Orlando, Florida. That's it right behind me.
Hi, I'm Mark Shields, and I have owned a DeLorean Time Machine for 20 some odd years.
DeLorean was always a dream car of mine. I expect that probably stemmed from the Back to the Future movie. Always wanted to have the DeLorean Time Machine, and I guess you've got to start with getting a car, work your way up from there.
I was just a kid in high school, and when I saw the car coming down out of the back of Doc Brown's truck, I thought that must be the most amazing thing in the world to drive. I wasn't into cars, but that one made an impression.
One reason why I got this car made is because of my family, specifically my son Jeremy. He loved the movie back in 1985. That inspired me to want to buy a car like this. I didn't even know what a DeLorean was at the time. And once I got a DeLorean 30 years later, I knew I was going to have it converted into a DeLorean Time Machine, so I had to do that. I did that for myself and my family.
It was a childhood obsession of epic proportions, which I later came to realize, and I just never let go of that dream, and it was one of the first priorities of life as far as I'm concerned.
I've wanted to be a DeLorean Time Machine owner since I was 3 years old. I remember going on the Back to the Future ride as a kid, thinking I was getting in a real DeLorean. After the ride, trying to look up front to see if the DMC emblem was there, and believing I was actually getting eaten by a T-Rex. And then I grew up watching guys like Gary Weaver build these amazing replica cars. It actually felt attainable. And about 3 years ago, I bought a DeLorean, a stock DeLorean, 1981, gray interior. And after about a year and a half of trying to fix it up, get it to run well, I realized I wasn't a DeLorean purist, and I was always a Back to the Future fan at heart. So I had to make the decision: was I gonna keep this car? And I was never gonna keep it. I was either gonna sell it or make it a time machine, and I think I made the right decision.
I always wanted a DeLorean. Did not know that you could get one that looked like a time machine. In 1998, there were barely any time machines, just maybe 3 or 4. And so I found this guy who was trying to raffle it off in Florida, and his raffle was terrible. No offense to Doug, who was doing the raffle, but it was just on some no-name website in the middle of the internet. And anyway, his raffle failed, and so I started to lowball him offers, and I didn't have a lot of money. So I started probably at 5,000, and then it slowly eventually got up to about 15. He said yes. I actually freaked out a little bit, and then settled myself and decided, okay, we are going to do this. This is definitely going to happen. I went to the bank and I said I need a loan to join school again and learn things, and they said fine, no questions asked. And then I wrote out another check for the other half of the money from Discover Card. Flew to Florida, and I was scared because I had to bring cash, which is what he wanted. Just loves the cash. And they took me out for dinner, and I didn't die, and we put the car up on a trailer, and I trailered it all the way back using a U-Haul, and then from there, basically the car was sitting in my parents' garage or in storage, and I decided I would do some repairs at DMC Houston. They said, oh, of course they were more than happy to take care of that. But it took a long time to get the car perfect. This has a stage 2 performance engine and it is wonderful. It's like having a brand new car. All of my problems are just, you know, regular wear and tear now. It's not a matter of something that's extraordinarily wrong, like the frame is not about to fall apart or whatever.
So originally, I reached out to all the builders, to Video Bob, Danny Botkin, and Bruce Kaloum, and all of them wanted, at the time, $20,000 to $25,000 to convert a DeLorean Time Machine, which at the time, I just didn't have that much money. It wasn't that I wasn't interested in their quality of work, I didn't have the money, so I started buying some parts online. I just started collecting parts. I had never really seen a DeLorean Time Machine up close, so I flew out to California and took a look at Danny's Time Machine, took a whole bunch of pictures, and then Oliver and Terry Holler were in town. They came and stayed at my house, and they said that they'd help me bend some flux bands. So we bent some flux bands in my backyard. We didn't actually put them on the car at the time. Oliver had the molds for the flux band brackets, so we made a bunch of those, and they sat in my garage in a corner for a long time. And then my wife and I bought a different house, and we moved, and where we moved, I didn't have a place to store the flux bands, so I said, you know what, why don't we put them on the car? And once we got the bands on the car, the DeLorean starts to look like the Time Machine, so I just dove into the deep end there. I'd been collecting parts for a little over a year, and just started putting them on the car, and in about a month and a half, the car was done. Now, it wasn't screen accurate, but it was close, in my opinion. So shortly after that, Joe Walzer did the unveiling of the A car in California. I went out and visited that, and saw the car in person and realized that I wasn't even close to being accurate. And so then I rebuilt the car a second time, which has turned into a third time, which if you're a purist and you want to be as screen accurate as I am, you just never stop. It's a never-ending hole.
I had my DeLorean for 8 years as a stock DeLorean before I started the time machine conversion, and pretty much sort of had to get to that point where I knew enough and had enough information and enough parts to sort of go, right, I think I can do this now. And kicked off that process that took 2 years to do. Back when I did mine, there was not a lot of information available, and trying to locate people from different parts of the world is always a little bit harder. The internet certainly helped that. The biggest struggle of the build for me would have been finding the right parts. A lot of the parts I put on the car were what I call holding parts, just like a placeholder that allowed me to continue work in other areas, and as parts became available, I would then update those and take the older parts off the car. You generally find you do this for a long time after. I'm still doing it now on the odd bits and pieces. The conversion, I had a very good low mileage, like new DeLorean, done 4,800 miles, so I wasn't going to drill holes in it and wreck it. So my conversion's fully reversible. Very unlikely I'll ever reverse it, but it is. There's no holes drilled in the stainless, no holes drilled inside the car at all. All of the clamps which are on the side of the car are made to look like they're screw fixed, but as you can probably see here, here's a sample one which I'm about to update on the car. It looks like it's closed, it has a screw head on it, but it's VHB taped. And so those just get taped to the car, and they have held on, what is it now, 6 years, quite fine. Everything else VHB taped or mechanically fixed using existing holes. There's quite a lot of existing holes you can use to sort that.
I think I hate DeLoreans. I have no problem drilling into this thing. In fact, it deserves it. It deserves to hurt because of how much my friggin' wallet has hurt. And so the back windows removed, all the side windows are removed, the center console's removed, all the flux bands are drilled in, all the purple clamps are drilled in. I don't give a shit.
We built ours ourselves. Back almost 20 years ago. This was before you could go on eBay and type DeLorean Time Machine and have 7 different things pop up to buy. much less parts and components, things like that. The conversion is completely reversible. We did not drill any holes in the stainless steel parts. So there.
You sometimes say that you use existing holes for your anchor points.
We used existing anchor points, we used adhesives, and mechanical fasteners. Three techniques. And a lot of times it was a lot more challenging trying to find a creative way to not just damage the car or drill holes in it.
Well, what was your opinion on the rear window?
That's a good question. For our purposes, I thought it would be wiser not to remove the rear glass from the bulkhead, because that's where the car's computer and fuses and relays and everything are, and that's right in the drip line. And if you listen to the history of the making of the films, they had a lot of problem with the cars, and I can't help but believe it's because they didn't seal it properly or thoroughly, and water and the CO2 moisture really messed with the electronics.
If you own a DeLorean that's not a time machine, you've probably heard the phrase, "Hey McFly, where's the flux capacitor?" Well, being that I know how to make cool electronics, I went out in the garage and I built myself one, and I put it inside my DeLorean that plugged into the cigarette lighter. I took it to the local car show and everybody was just blown away by it. And that's when I knew I was onto something. And that was back in 2003. Here it is in 2020, and we built 33 of these Delorean Time Machines.
I did buy it as a conversion, but everything was made out of paper and cardboard and plastic and bottles and Tupperware, and it was not ideal. And so everything was pretty much built to last for a few weeks. He had it in a parade. So then I started to seek out people, and over the years, I've essentially replaced, I would say, 80% of what's on the car. But more recently, when I was in Manchester, England, I found out that, you know, there's a whole bunch of nice people in Facebook groups that it's not what you know, it's who you know. So that's been saving me a lot of time in trying to do myself the research time I really need to do. And so I'm enjoying that. How long did it take? That's the most popular question people ask when they're stopping me, which luckily in this pandemic, nobody wants to stop. I love it. That time, hold on, I'm about to pass my parents' house. That's right there. I would say maybe, probably just a few months, maybe three months total over 20 years. You know, I do things on the weekends occasionally, and then I just let it roll for like a year. And you know, when you have 20 years to work on your time machine, you've got nothing else but time.
My biggest struggle at the time was finding somebody to cut and weld the rear deck lid, because I'd already done the flux bands, which is pretty much one of the hardest things that you have to do on the car. I did just recently, with the help of Gary Weaver, who came and visited me in Florida, redid the flux bands on this car with parts from Mat Bedogni in New Zealand, so that it's even more screen accurate, because again, once you dive down the rabbit hole, you can't stop. So my biggest struggle was getting the deck lid cut and welded, which now I've done 2 times, about to do it a 3rd time. So you're never actually done until you're done. Is my build permanent? Yes. I took great pleasure in filming a video of removing the rear window. When I reached out to Danny Botkin and said, hey, what's the best way to get this window out? He said, hey, look, man, we have tons of windows available. The easiest way to get it out is just break it out. So I had a friend of mine, Joe, come over. We broke the window out and yeah, put it in the trash can when we were done with it.
Hit it, man. All right. There we go. That was anticlimactic.
Finding and replicating some of these virtually impossible to find parts has been a quest over the last 15 years. You know, finding parts that you just can't find again and replicating them in a way that we could make the time machine, you know, something as simple as like this little blower that was part of an air hockey table or something. That's what we think it is, but I just can't find them anymore, so we replicate them out of plastic. So all of these things that are impossible to find, like this was a silicone hose from a 1967 Sikorsky helicopter, and we recreated out of foam. So we have an original one that's made of silicone, and we've made a mold, and then we recreate it just like this part here, which is an aircraft heating unit, and we recreate it out of cast resin, and we do special airbrushing to it, detailing. There's just so many parts like that that are impossible to find. This little part here comes off of the front of a Pioneer speaker grill, and you know, this thing, it's known as the wormhole emitter or the tachyon generator. It's got different names, but it was part of a prototype that was never built, and it was sort of a one-off project. So a lot of the things that the filmmakers used, Kevin Pike and his team at Film Tricks, were just things that they picked up off the ground and seemed like it would be a good idea. I remember we looked for a long time trying to find red capacitors that had 3 contacts on them. But we realized later it's not a red capacitor with 3 contacts. There's really no such thing. They took one of the blue ones like this, and they just simply turned it upside down and decorated it to look like that so you wouldn't recognize it. There's so many parts like that that we had to kind of reverse engineer and figure out what they were, have them recreated, sort of like these aluminum boxes, but actually make them out of fiberglass. They're lightweight, extremely strong, and we can make them on demand without having to wait for our sources. Clearly one of the most recognizable pieces is the flux capacitor, and this is something that we've become very good at. You know, made up of a lot of old electronics from like the 40s. We just kind of figured out how it's supposed to be and how to make it, and put them in each car, and like I said, we've done over 30 of them. It's hard to believe.
So as far as the build process goes, this is not something that I purchased. This is something I built myself, and I've been doing this for a number of years. The community in this field, I would say, kind of starts in the 2002 era, where a handful of us throughout the country were the pioneers in sourcing and identifying many of the parts for this car. And those were the early days of the internet and the early days of research and this whole time machine hobby that has exploded these days. How long did this take? Well, that's a hard question to answer, because my immediate knee-jerk response is, when is art ever finished? It's either abandoned, well, it's only abandoned. Actually, it's only abandoned. So now, in order to get it to a presentable DeLorean Time Machine recognizable state, I would say the early days took me a good 1 to 2 years. However, since then, you can do this much faster with the given set of knowledge and prop builders out there who are phenomenal. And as long as you've got the apt and the money and the ability to network a little bit, it can be done much quicker than that these days. The biggest struggle in the build, I have to say, is, again, a knee-jerk reaction. It's always been the rear coiling, or known as the flux bands in Nerd Kingdom. We call those flux bands, and there are a number of methods of doing this, and they're all tedious, to say the least. So it's I think that almost any builder will tell you that that's the worst part of this whole thing, as far as trying to convert it. Yes, I made the conversion permanent. That is the next on this agenda. So there are many people out there who have attempted to do non-invasive conversions, and in the early days, not many of them succeeded. Nowadays, however, I personally know some people that have done fantastic jobs in the non-conversion, or the non-permanent conversion spectrum. Mine is permanent. I actually drilled into the stainless panels, the fiberglass. no holds barred, went at this with the intention it would never be anything again other than a time machine. So now I did get into a left front fender issue here, which if you're a DeLorean owner already, you know that's a big problem. I got hit, and I currently have a new left front fender on, and I have not drilled into it, and I do not intend to, because I don't think you need to do that anymore.
I never get tired of that. Owning and driving a DeLorean Time Machine is something special. I mean, I know people that own Ferraris, Lamborghinis, exotic vehicles. Nothing comes close to the DeLorean Time Machine. It's an exotic that's even more exotic than any fantasy vehicle you can dream of. I mean, I think the only thing that's on par with it is maybe the Batmobile.
And so I can talk about a little bit, what it was like driving this car for the last 5 years as a time machine. It was like driving a celebrity all the time. And around here, people are now used to it. It's my daily driver, except in the winter of snow. So that's when I do all my major work on the upgrades, that mostly keeping the DeLorean driving reliably. But I've been in the news several times, and been in local paper several times, so my town is very used to me, and so it's not quite as big a deal as it was at first. It was like it would take like twice as long to go anywhere, and I would drive it everywhere, just to the stores, and it would take an hour to leave because everybody was just swarming me, and I could talk quite a while about that, but
what's it like to drive around in a DeLorean time machine? Well, it's pretty cool, I have to say. Yeah, you get a lot of smiles. You actually make a lot of people's days. One thing I've learned is you don't go to the gas station if you're in a hurry to get anywhere, because you're always standing around talking to people that pull in or are in the gas station. It's it's good fun, but it's also a worry because there's a lot of people that are trying to take photos or videos of you while they drive, and get a little bit too close sometimes.
What is it like to drive around in a DeLorean time machine? Well, I've got just one key phrase that I think that sums it up nicely, which is, if you ever wondered what it was to be an instant celebrity, this is what it is. So you drive around in a DeLorean time machine, it's instant celebrity status, and it's like, well, it's very difficult to get around in traffic, and it's also very difficult to get into wherever you were trying to go, because you're going to end up with people on the highway taking photos, hanging out their vehicle, not paying attention to the road, hanging in your blind spots. And then when you park, there are going to be people who may have followed you for miles, actually. People will follow you for quite a bit of time, and probably the funniest thing is some of these people have much more expensive cars than I do. It kind of makes it feel special. So the ride itself in a time machine, I'm going to tell you, being a DeLorean fan and owning multiple DeLoreans and various stages of fully converted, not converted, the DeLorean car itself is a lot more fun to drive than a time machine DeLorean is. So when you convert your car to a time machine, the DeLorean gets plenty of attention on its own, but the level of attention you get is definitely upped by tenfold when you have any sort of time machine looking thing happening. And it doesn't even have to be well done, it just will happen. As far as the car driving, what I can tell you is that the DeLorean is not known for being the fastest sports car. However, it does handle very well. And my car has a Stage 2 engine, which gives it a little bit, it's from DeLorean Motor Company. It gives a little bit of pep. It's not the fastest DeLorean in the world. However, it is faster than the baseline. And it handles the best out of any car I've ever driven because it's so low and squatty. So you can take corners as fast as you possibly can and still hug the curb you know, just as much as you would, or hug the road as just as much as you ever would wish to.
The worst part about owning this car are the other people. The biggest problem with owning a DeLorean Time Machine is you don't really own it, or people don't realize that it belongs to a person. So I've come out and I've had people that have opened the doors and are sitting in the car. I had a woman once lay across the hood of the car to get photos. Like, people just don't understand that it's valuable and that it belongs to somebody. And they just get excited because to them, it's a movie star. I mean, this is one of the stars of the Back to the Future movie, and they can see it in person. So that would be the only negative.
You do get a lot of attention, more than our fair share, I think.
What is it like driving a DeLorean Time Machine? It is terrifying. I do not recommend it to anyone. You can't see shit. No one can see you. People are swerving into you on the highway trying to get a picture. I mean, there's no lack of attention. Even as a stock DeLorean, it got crazy attention. It's dangerous.
Well, it's not the best experience. It's exciting and thrilling because, you know, it looks and feels like you're in the movie, but it's very cramped. There's not a whole lot of room to move around. There's lots of things that you can hit your head on or bust your knuckles on. Again, shifting is difficult. All of that room is taken up. And then other people out there on the road, they aren't necessarily the safest while you're driving. They are easily distracted and excited about, oh my gosh, that's a DeLorean Time Machine. There's not a whole lot of power. I have a stock DeLorean, so it drives like a car from the 80s, no power steering, visibility, it's gone. That's it right back there.
I would say the worst part about owning a DeLorean Time Machine is probably the DeLorean itself. There's always something that needs to be done that's $3,000 or $4,000 and preventing you from enjoying the car. The car never wants to start, or the air conditioning doesn't work, or it's overheating on you on the highway. I hit my head on the steering wheel, and that never really helps.
The coolest thing about driving the car, there's one thing that I absolutely love, and that's when you flip this switch right here. Never gets old.
But it's been very rewarding to be the person that gets to share this kind of privilege. And I guess the downsides is you have to be very patient with people, and you have to be in a good mood, and you want to represent this car properly and not be the rude or impatient person that they'll remember forever, even though you may not remember everybody that sees the car. So you have to always be polite, and because this could be the one moment in their whole life that they get to see a DeLorean Time Machine.
When you're out in public and people see the car and the attention it gets, that feeling where you see their eyes open up and they just can't help but just yell and point. And when kids know what it is, I was 4 or 5 when I started being obsessed with the movie. So when I see young kids who know what it is, even if it's for Ready Player One, it's awesome. And letting them sit in it and be a part of it is just something I always wish I had when I was a kid. I would go to Universal Studios and see the Oxnard car on display, and it gives you that feeling when you see it even from a distance, just that excitement, and I don't think it's ever gone away.
The best thing is you own a DeLorean Time Machine, and you can look at it, and it's amazing, and it's a project that, if you're a crazy detail-oriented person, it's never done. You've always got something that you can find. The internet now has been a great place to go and find the parts. I've been to all the hardware stores in Los Angeles. I've got to meet all of these amazing people. I've got these lifelong builder friends. It's a fantastic experience and community.
I'm so thankful to all of our fans and our customers, and most of all, I'm thankful to Bob Gale for writing such an amazing movie with his friend Robert Zemeckis and making probably the greatest movie of our lifetime. Thankful to Kevin Pike and his team at Film Tricks for building the cars, and our buddy Dangerous Bob for being the prop master, and everyone who was involved in helping make all of these props and the cars and the film come to life, and giving all of us an opportunity to relive that fantasy.
the best part of having the DeLorean Time Machine and the worst part. So the best part would be, in my head, it's that, for me, it's the realization of a dream. It's the realization of a goal. It means more to me than a car. It means more to me than, it's more to me than a material object is what I'm trying to say. For starters, it never gets old. So I'm coming up on my 19-year anniversary of owning DeLoreans, and I will never forget the first time driving away from the bank and popping a cassette tape into the car, which came with it, and it was Flashdance, And this thing gives you, it was What a Feeling. And it was a very appropriate song because that is how I would define the best part of DeLorean ownership. It's what a fucking feeling. What a feeling. It's really cool. And every day you come out to your garage and you understand, no matter how normal it becomes for you, this is an abnormal thing. And it doesn't get old. Unlike other vehicles that you may lose their luster, this one has never lost its luster, and I'm on almost 20 years.
And of course, ever since you're a kid and you've seen this movie and you wanted this car, this is kind of how you wanted to live out your dream, is to live it into a time machine.
I've thought about this, and the best part of actually having it now has been able to walk out into the garage and just look at it. I find myself doing that quite a lot, and actually just staring at it and going, I can't believe it, this is actually my car. I've got a lot of other cars, and this car is the favourite by far. I class it as one of the children.